Today's story is far from a simple summer afternoon. I never imagined a pitcher of fresh water could lead me to so many forbidden thoughts or desires, and to think it all started because of the steward's cousin. My name is Clara Ashworth, raised by my aunt after the untimely death of my parents. I was raised to behave modestly on the grounds of Whitemoor Hall, where I work as assistant secretary in the estate's administrative affairs. I usually moved discreetly through the corridors of the administrative wing, always avoiding lingering glances or whispered comments. That afternoon began like any other, the distant sound of the milkman's carriage, the aroma of black tea wafting from the servants' pantry, and the silent exchange of notes between departments. But around 3 o'clock, a messenger burst onto the stairs with an urgent message. Baron Thurlow was threatening to suspend the wheat contract unless he was personally attended to by Sir Alaric, the estate's chief steward. Since Sir Alaric was not in his office, I was tasked with delivering the message. I hurriedly grabbed a silver ewer of scented water and climbed the steps to the North Gallery, where he usually conducted his most delicate matters. My intention was simple: deliver the message and leave. But as I pushed open the heavy oak door, I encountered someone who was not the master of the house. Cecil Wycliffe, the steward's enigmatic cousin. Tall, with dark hair slicked back, he wore a white linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He was crouched near the map shelf, leafing through a ledger. He hadn't noticed me enter. The silence hung thick. "Forgive me. I thought Sir Alaric was here," I murmured, staring intently, unable to back away. He looked up. My heart stopped. It was the kind of gaze that lingers on you like a silver knife, cold, elegant, yet sharp. He didn't say a word. He just watched me. I took a hesitant step back, but my shoe slipped on the oriental rug. The pitcher tilted, and a trickle of water fell surely onto his thick grey trousers. The sound was subtle, but the stain spread exactly where it shouldn't have. My cheeks burned. "I'm so sorry, sir. It was an accident." I hurried, grabbing a linen handkerchief from the sideboard. I approached hesitantly and lightly touched the damp fabric. He hadn't said anything yet, just staring at me, his eyes dark, intense, almost hungry. As he tried to dry the area, the handkerchief slipped from my hand. He caught it before it fell. Our fingers touched, and in that instant, time stopped breathing. It was a second. A heat ran down my spine as if someone had lit a fireplace under my corset. He then spoke. "Don't worry." His voice, deep, measured, vibrated in my stomach. I looked away, trying to laugh nervously. It really does seem like I did it on purpose. A small smile played at the corner of his mouth. "And you didn't?" My knees went weak. Still holding the handkerchief between his fingers, he stared at me as if he already knew what was happening beneath my white cotton dress. An involuntary heat washed over me. I stammered out an excuse. "I need to tell Sir Alaric. The Baron is waiting." He merely nodded. His gaze was still on me as I closed the door. I staggered down the steps, my legs weak, my most intimate flower throbbing inside the thick fabric of my cotton panties. His scent lingered in the air, subtle as the smoke of an expensive cigar. I tried to pretend nothing had happened, but my fingers still tingled, and as night fell over the estate, that scene replayed in my mind like a forbidden tale whispered in my ear. When it was time to close for the day, I saw him again. He was in the hallway, passing slowly. I was standing by the marble fountain in the inner courtyard, filling a pitcher. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me and winked, and in that instant, the first breath escaped without permission. That night, I couldn't sleep. The sheets clung to my legs, my body feverish. His words, "And didn't you?" echoed like a secret imprinted on my skin. I woke early, hoping the day would erase what I was feeling. But when I arrived at the mansion, I saw Cecil again, this time in the archives room, with the door ajar. He wore a tight black shirt over his broad chest. simple, provocative. Everything about him seemed designed to throw me off balance. I tried to ignore him, but my body betrayed me. My gaze ran over his back, over the firm fist holding the quill. I felt him notice. As he left the room, our eyes met. He passed me with a half smile, as if he had already bared my soul, and more than that. I ran to the servants' pantry. I filled a glass with water and leaned against the cold stone wall, trying to cool the fire burning within. He entered soon after, silently. He opened a cabinet, took out a package of butter cookies, and leaned on the counter less than a meter away from me. He chewed slowly, as if savoring more than the food. "Good thing it wasn't hot tea," I said with a cheeky little smile. "Maybe there's still time," I replied, half teasing, half wishing. He bit his lower lip. The biscuit was just an excuse. What our eyes were saying was too clear to ignore. "I didn't expect to see you around here," he commented, as if he were the first to be surprised. "I work here, remember? After yesterday, I figured you'd run away." "Run away for what?" He devoured me with his eyes. "Because you don't seem to know how to play without getting anyone wet." My laugh escaped softly, but inside my thighs tightened, betraying all the composure I tried to maintain. I left without looking back, but I felt his gaze follow me, like invisible hands sliding under my clothes. The rest of the day passed in a constant state of alert. With every step in the hallway, my body reacted. It was like waiting for something I shouldn't want, but wanted, badly. If you're also breathing fast and your heart is pounding, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, okay? Let me know in the comments if this story resonated with you. And hold on tight, what was just a spark can turn into a fire if you know what I mean. The secret flower between my legs knew only one way to respond: involuntary contractions every time his name crossed my mind. Cecil Wycliffe. One thought was enough, and my entire body remembered the previous night as if it was still happening. When the wall clock struck 4, the handwritten notice, typical of Whitemore Hall's administration, arrived. Alignment meeting. Support staff only. Room 3. I looked at the list. There was his name. 10 people. A small room, shuttered windows to keep the air cool, long polished mahogany tables, padded chairs with velvet armrests that, if you sat too close, would end up touching. I chose a corner. I wanted to avoid him. I wanted distance, but he wouldn't. With all the chairs available, Cecil chose to sit next to me. Without ceremony, without hesitation. "It's hot in here, don't you think?" he whispered, not looking directly. "Do you always feel this hot?" "It's not me who's red-necked," I replied, trying to look serious, but my voice sounded too soft to be stern. "You observe too much, and you pretend you don't like it," I replied, as if plunging a dagger into my fingertips. He didn't answer. He just smiled. And in that gap between words and silences, our thighs began to brush lightly with every small movement. Neither of us backed away. A silent duel between skin and desire. The air was supposedly cool, but my body felt like a furnace hidden beneath my bodice. The heat rose, disguised by the decorum of formalities. When the meeting ended, he waited. Everyone stood, one by one, and left. I was the last. As I passed him, I heard his voice, low as a secret. "Tonight? I'll stay a little longer." I didn't answer, but my heart throbbed as if it had understood before me. At that moment I knew the workday wouldn't end with the wheat spreadsheets or the harvest records. The clock struck 6. Everyone left their notes and headed for the exit. I stayed, not for the report, which wasn't even my responsibility, but for him. I stayed because my body knew something was coming. Something dangerous, yet irresistible. The mansion slowly fell asleep. The lights in the pantry and meeting room still glowed yellow, like candles at the end of a banquet. Everything was silent. The hallway echoed like an ancient whisper. The clock read 6:27 p.m. when I heard footsteps. Steady, resolute. The sound of someone who knows exactly what they want. I pretended to read a document beside the fireplace, but I saw his reflection in the window. Cecil approached, his dark grey shirt tied across his chest, his hair slightly disheveled, as if the day had made him more human and more dangerous. He stopped behind me. His breath warmed my neck. "You were," he murmured. "A statement, not a question." "I had unfinished business," I replied, my throat dry. "Me too. Someone to see better." Goosebumps shivered from my ankles to the back of my neck. I slowly turned in my chair. I faced him. The glow of the chandelier reflected in his eyes, a gleam that pierced my soul. "This is dangerous," I whispered, feigning playfulness. "Dangerous is what I'm thinking now." And then, the silence was broken. I don't know who went first, but my hand was already on the collar of his shirt. I tugged, and he responded as if he'd been waiting centuries. The kiss was urgent, wet, hungry. His taste was of something I couldn't name, but which my body recognized as necessary. His hands wrapped around my waist and moved naturally downward. His touch was firm, warm, dominant. My legs, trapped beneath the linen skirt, opened instinctively. His body fit as if it already knew where. His mouth found my neck, bit down lightly, and my hips responded. It was as if my entire body screamed now. He traced my thigh with his fingers, moving slowly upward with almost malicious precision. The skirt rose, wrinkled, until his fingers met skin-hot, damp, eager skin. "You're burning," he whispered. "It's your fault," he said in a broken voice. He lifted me with one arm, sat me on the dark wooden table, pushed papers with his forearm, and invaded that space as if it were already his by right. There, amid forgotten documents and the clinking of the distant carriage, he took me. Slowly at first, then quickly increased. Our bodies collided in a rhythm that mixed sound and sweat. My legs gripped his waist. My arms wrapped around his shoulders. My little flower opened, undid, surrendered. When I found the stars, if you know what I mean, it was as if a part of the world collapsed inside me. Clinging to him, I left marks on his shoulders. He looked at me with satisfaction, with that smile of someone who knows exactly what he's done. We breathed heavily, our hair plastered to our foreheads, the clock ticking down the time of our sins. "That was dangerous," I murmured, still weak. "And tomorrow could be worse," he replied, running his finger under my chin as if caressing a secret. The next morning, I woke with my body tired and my soul burning. The first thing I did was look for him. The second was hide the red marks on my neck with face powder. But the mirror didn't lie. My skin bore his traces, and my little flower vibrated as if it had a memory of its own. I arrived early at the administration office. The corridors were still empty. I walked as if carrying a secret in my skirts. But Cecil wasn't there. Not in the archives. Not in the pantry. I sat at my desk. I pretended. I pretended badly. Everything about him remained imprinted around me. The woody scent of the cabinet, the reflection of the chandelier in the glass, the wallpaper in the living room where our eyes met. My colleagues began arriving one by one. I greeted them all with a practiced smile, but inside, I was still burning. Now tell me, did you feel that heat too? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to know what you thought of this chapter. And if you haven't already, leave a like and share it with anyone you know who also loves a good story full of tension, desire, and secrets. And prepare your heart, because in the next chapter, the consequences will knock on the door and it may be ajar. The sound of the typewriter, the clink of china cups in the pantry, the conversations about harvests and remittances, everything had returned. everything, except him. Ever since that night, ever since that touch, that kiss, that tremor between skin and bones, his absence had hurt as if it were part of the routine. A silence imposed, but felt like a constant whisper in the back of the throat. And then, at 10:12, he appeared. He wore a simple dark linen shirt and tight trousers, no vest, no tie, as if he no longer cared to maintain his disguise. His hair was slightly disheveled, and his eyes held the same intensity as last night, the one that still burned in my memories, in my thighs, in my belly. Our eyes met for a split second. He didn't smile, neither did I. But there was no need. We knew, and that was enough. The morning meeting was torture, not because of the production figures or the announcements about the new fabric shipment, but because the chief executive, Mr. Horace Lancaster, had returned from London, the same man who, weeks ago, had asked me to be considerate to his nephew, newly arrived from the French colony. The same man who now lectured me about goals, oblivious to the silent war of desires taking place around him. I sat on the other side of the table, away from Mathieu, away from the warmth of his body, the woody scent of his perfume, the sound of his breathing. But still, I felt him. Every time he shifted in his chair, every time his fingers lightly tapped my thigh, my skin reacted as if he were touching me there, in public, in front of everyone. During my morning tea break, I fled to the pantry. I needed silence or a scandal, anything to break the spell. I had my back to him, stirring a bowl of dried leaves, when I felt him approach. Without audible footsteps, without a word, he stopped behind me. "We shouldn't," I murmured, not looking. "I know," he replied. He moved closer, sensing if there was room, if I would back away. I didn't. "My uncle is here, and yet you carry my scent." My body froze and boiled at the same time, not out of vanity, but out of truth. I still felt him inside me, and I feared I would never forget him. "This won't happen again, will it?" I asked softly. He didn't answer. He simply rested his fingers lightly on my waist. A touch so quick, so subtle, that anyone would have thought it an accident. But my body reacted with the intensity of a whirlwind. My hips moved on their own, betraying my composure. "Before leaving," he said, "stay calm. I can fake it." And he left, leaving his scent lingering in me once more. The rest of the day was sensual torture. What existed between us was invisible to others, but it pulsed strongly between each report delivered and each exchange of internal correspondence. He passed by my desk like a warm ghost, and as I walked down the halls, I feigned disinterest, but I could hear his heartbeat next to mine. That afternoon, I received a handwritten note from Mr. Horace. "Melisande, can you come to the living room at 5 o'clock? We need to talk about young Mathieu." My stomach sank. That was all, but it could have been anything. I arrived promptly at 5. The door was ajar. Mr. Horace was shuffling through some papers. "Come in, my dear. Is everything in order?" "Yes, sir. I just wanted to thank you for your dedication to my nephew. He praised you highly. He said you were very attentive. With your permission, I'd like to keep him here for a few more weeks. Is that okay?" "Of course, sir. It would be a pleasure." As we left, Mathieu appeared in the hallway. We passed each other. We didn't look at each other. We didn't speak. But as we passed, his fingertips lightly touched mine. A tiny, almost invisible touch. But more intimate than anything we'd ever done. Because now it was forbidden. And what's forbidden, when kept hidden, burns even more. The following days passed as if nothing had happened. Mathieu remained in the support area, always with the same calm air, the same controlled voice, the same disorienting perfume. And I continued like the model secretary I always was, punctual, dedicated, cordial. But with him, I couldn't smile without giving myself away, so I just watched, from afar. And when he looked back, it was as if our skin touched again, as if we were lying on the conference table again, hiding our moans, remembering the taste, the bite, the whisper. On the third Friday after that, everything changed. I was at the horse-drawn carriage stop next to the mansion. The afternoon was getting cold. The wind whipped through my hair, tied in a loose bun. The street was almost deserted. He appeared out of nowhere. He was wearing a thick coat, a dark scarf, and a beret. Casual, almost invisible. He stopped beside me. He didn't say hello, didn't smile. He just murmured, "I'm leaving next week." My throat closed. I knew it would be temporary, but knowing doesn't prepare the heart. I thought I'd stay longer. Me too. Silence spread between us. A car driver hurried past, and then he said, "That night, it wasn't supposed to happen, but it did." It was real, I finished. I looked at the ground, at the loose stone between my shoes, at the time we didn't enjoy. My whole life I've known how to hide what I felt. But with you, I couldn't. I looked at him, with everything, without pretending anymore. "Are you really leaving?" "I have no choice. Your boss is my uncle. Your life is here, and we wanted each other too much." The sentence hung in the air like a kiss we never gave. He took a step closer, enough for his scent to envelop me again. "If I didn't have to go, would you call me back?" He looked into my eyes and smiled with his gaze. "If I come back, would you let me in?" The carriage stopped. The coachman looked impatiently. I hesitated, but I climbed in. At the last moment, he gently grabbed my wrist. "Melisande, you were my respite from the world, and you will be the memory I will cherish, even from afar." The carriage continued, and I left behind the man who had me for one night, but who left his mark on me, as if he had discovered me completely. Today, I remain in the same mansion. No one ever knew. No one ever suspected. But sometimes, when the clock strikes 3 in the afternoon and the hall is silent, I look at the conference table and my body shivers. Because some stories don't need happy endings. They just need to be so intense that they make the flower pulse, even if only in memory. And you? Did you feel that shiver too? Tell me in the comments. If you've made it this far, comment where you're watching from. It's a pleasure to hear from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with those who also love a hot and unforgettable romance. Until the next video, my loves, and remember,